Three men, three empires, and a chain of events that set the stage for some of the deadliest battles in the drug trade. We're about to step into a world where money, power, and influence reshaped entire nations. Pablo Escobar, the Cali Cartel, and El Chapo weren't just drug traffickers, they were empire builders, each pushing the boundaries of what criminal organizations could achieve. Together, they wove a tangled web of alliances and rivalries, challenging governments and amassing vast fortunes. But how did one man's ambitions fuel another's rise, and eventually, another's fall? Stay tuned as we dive into the real-life story of these three drug lords. It's the early 1970s, and Pablo Escobar is a young, ambitious man from Medellín, Colombia. What he lacks in wealth, he makes up for in charisma, brutality, and vision. But this wasn't a vision built on charity or goodwill. Escobar's ambition was founded on the cocaine trade, a lucrative empire that would bring him billions and cement his control over the city and beyond. Pablo Escobar was more than just a trafficker, he was an empire builder. Escobar wasn't interested in the typical dreams of wealth. He wanted to rewrite the rulebook, to build an empire like no one had ever seen. Medellín was the heart of his operation, and to rule Medellín, he needed loyalty. Escobar's strategy was as much about public relations as it was about brute force. In the poorer neighborhoods of Medellín, where government neglect was rampant, Escobar presented himself as a hero. Once Escobar had a stronghold on the city's heart, he used fear to secure his empire. Those who defied him, politicians, police officers, and even journalists, were met with a chilling choice.
Very famous word established by Pablo Escobar, plata or plomo, bullet or money.
You either accept the bribe or you get killed. Anybody who went against Escobar would die.
Escobar seized the opportunity, as cocaine demand skyrocketed across the United States. Quickly monopolizing the trade, he amassed billions, winning support among the Colombian poor by funding schools and housing. To many, he was a hero, but behind the facade, was a man willing to eliminate anyone in his way. Escobar gained brutal control over Colombia by the early 1980s. Escobar's empire was becoming a global force, but his growing power attracted unwanted attention from Colombia's government and the United States. Escobar's next move was as bold as it was chilling. He didn't want to just rule from the shadows, he wanted real political power. In the 1980s, he made a move to enter Colombia's Congress, envisioning a future where he wouldn't just be Medellín's kingpin but a legitimate political leader. But this step into the public eye proved risky. Escobar's opponents saw him as a direct threat to Colombia's government. His violent tactics had brought an international outcry, and the pressure on Colombian authorities was mounting, but Escobar didn't back down. In fact, he doubled down, increasing his campaign of violence. In his view, anyone who threatened his empire was disposable. Journalists, politicians, judges, none were safe. Yet, despite his terror tactics, the people of Medellín were divided. For many, he was still the man who had built soccer fields, who had provided homes. Escobar had expertly crafted his dual identity, ruthless drug lord to the world, yet folk hero to Medellín's forgotten communities. Escobar's empire was a global phenomenon. By the mid-1980s, he controlled up to 80% of the world's cocaine market, but with such bloodshed on his hands, how long could Escobar maintain his grip on Medellín? How far would his vision take him before everything began to crumble? The Cali Cartel's rise and Pablo's faith. The Cali Cartel, led by Gilberto and Miguel Rodriguez Orihuela, was also growing alongside Pablo. But unlike Escobar, the Cali Cartel had a different approach. They viewed themselves as the gentlemen of Cali, using bribes and business tactics to expand their reach, without attracting the same level of violence and government attention as Escobar. Initially, the Medellín and Cali cartels share the cocaine market, cooperating to increase profits and influence. But as Escobar's methods become more extreme, tensions rise. The Cali cartel sees his brutal tactics as a liability, threatening the cartel network as a whole by drawing too much heat from authorities. The Rodriguez Orihuela brothers begin to see Escobar as not just a competitor but a threat to their own empire. They begin secretly cooperating with both Colombian and U.S. authorities, feeding intelligence on Escobar's whereabouts. The Colombian government forms a special task force to hunt him down. Escobar's days as Colombia's most powerful drug lord are numbered, and he is forced into hiding. The U.S. pressure on Colombia became immense. With the Colombian government and the DEA closing in, Escobar's once unbreakable empire was starting to crack. Over the next several years, Escobar narrowly escapes capture time again and again, but the pressure from authorities is unrelenting. Finally, in December 1993, after years on the run, Escobar is finally tracked down. Colombian forces close in, and Escobar is killed in a dramatic rooftop standoff. His death signals the end of the Medellín cartel, and Colombia takes a breath of relief. But the drug trade doesn't stop with Escobar's fall. In fact, his death leaves a power vacuum, and the Cali cartel is ready to fill it. With Escobar's death, the world expected a quiet end to Colombia's cartel wars. But in reality, it marked the beginning of a new, more sophisticated era of the Cali cartel that was already operating in Escobar's shadow. But unlike the Medellín cartel, they had no intention of following the same explosive path. They wanted power and wealth, but they preferred to build their empire in the shadows, aiming for quiet control over flashy violence. They meticulously built alliances, turning their organization into a global network. But this wasn't just a drug empire, it was a multi-layered business with holdings in hotels, banks, and factories. Their secret? Bribery and political influence. While Escobar famously threatened officials with plata o plomo, the Cali cartel simply bribed them. Cali aimed to stay off the front pages, operating with quiet precision. The brothers invested in legitimate businesses and forged connections in politics, finance, and law enforcement. The lines between criminal operations and legitimate business blurred, as the cartel's wealth infiltrated the legitimate Colombian economy. Yet, as they gained control, the Cali cartel couldn't keep everything hidden. In the mid-1990s, both the Colombian government and the DEA shifted their focus from Medellín to Cali. In 1995, Gilberto Rodriguez was captured in his own apartment, sending shockwaves through the cartel. Miguel followed soon after. Over the next year, the Cali cartel's leadership was systematically dismantled. Without their careful coordination and connections, the organization began to crumble, and the gentlemen of Cali lost their hold on the cocaine trade. Tunnels, power, and escape, El Chapo's rise. With the fall of Colombia's cartels, the global drug trade faced a major shift. But where the Medellín and Cali cartels left a vacuum, Mexico's Sinaloa cartel was ready to step in. Led by Joaquín El Chapo Guzmán, Sinaloa rose to prominence not just by filling the gaps left by Cali, but by evolving the trade itself. El Chapo and his associates took lessons from Colombia's cartels, adapting their strategies and creating one of the most powerful criminal organizations the world had ever seen. El Chapo grew up in the rugged, mountainous region of Sinaloa, Mexico. From a young age, he was exposed to the world of drug trafficking. As he established his network, El Chapo paid close attention to the Colombian cartel's methods. He admired Escobar's ambition and Cali's covert approach, and he developed a hybrid model of his own, one that combined ruthless violence with business acumen. And like his Colombian predecessors, he had his own innovation that would define his empire: tunnels. Sinaloa's secret weapon, one of El Chapo's most effective tactics was his use of tunnels to transport drugs into the United States. These weren't simple passageways. They were elaborate structures with lighting, ventilation, and even rails for moving heavy loads of drugs quickly and undetected. The first major tunnel, discovered in Arizona in 1990, spanned 300 feet and featured a hydraulic lift system. It was a sign of things to come. This innovation gave the Sinaloa cartel a distinct advantage soon. Sinaloa became the largest supplier of illegal drugs in the United States, cementing its dominance. Expanding control and influence by the early 2000s, El Chapo developed trafficking routes across Latin America, with contacts in every major drug-producing country. And like the Cali cartel, he diversified his connections to make his operations harder to trace. Sinaloa's distribution network extended into Europe, Asia, and even Australia. He built a global empire by bribing officials and spreading influence while balancing threats with payouts. Mexican authorities arrested him in 1993.
Within days, the prison guards were calling him boss, el patrón, and they gave him anything that he wanted.
He was sentenced to 20 years in maximum security prison. Now, that should have been the end of the story.
He showed his power in jail and he was untouchable. The fear that he put in these people, it was obvious.
It wasn't the warden that controlled the penitentiary, it was Chapo Guzman. And it was not only because of the money, but they also feared him. Because they knew that if they opposed him, he had the ability to have them killed within the penitentiary or outside the penitentiary.
But he escaped from prison in 2001, reportedly hiding in a laundry cart. This escape added to his legendary status and demonstrated his ability to evade the law. Then, in 2014, El Chapo was recaptured, but his escape the following year became a defining moment in his story. In a meticulously planned operation, a mile-long tunnel was dug directly under his prison cell. The tunnel was equipped with lights and a motorcycle on tracks, allowing El Chapo to flee at high speed. It was a display of his resources, ingenuity, and influence, a testament to how far the Sinaloa cartel's power extended. The legacy and influence of Sinaloa. Despite his eventual capture in 2016, El Chapo's legacy persists. The Sinaloa cartel continues its operations, led by a new generation, including his sons. Thanks for watching. And stay tuned for more stories that shaped history.